Okay, well, welcome everyone to our webinar, our follow-up webinar from this last winter's AAS Ambassadors Workshop. I want to introduce myself. You haven't met me before. My name is Brian Cruz. I'm the director of the Teacher Learning Center here at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific in San Francisco. When Susie Girton left to go to NRAO, and then Anna Hurst, who most of you know, ended up having some other responsibilities here at the ASP. Greg Schultz and I kind of took over the overseeing and caregiving, I guess one might say, of the AAS Ambassadors Program. And so we're very enthusiastic about working with all of you, and it's taken us a little bit of time getting up to speed, but we wanted to make sure that we introduce ourselves. And so I'd like to introduce Dr. Greg Schultz.
Hi, folks. You've seen Brian and I communicate with all of you via the AFCU forum and also now on the Facebook group. And hopefully you're not on the Facebook group. Please do join that. You'll see the information about that posted in the AFCU forum. Also want to thank everybody who has filled out the survey we put out last month. And those responses were great, very helpful for us as we put together and just submitted on Monday a report to AAS in which we are also requesting for continued funding for the program for another couple of years. So cross your fingers if you have any friends on the AAS Council and you remind them that this is a valuable program that can be helpful too. But they will be taking it up at the upcoming AAS meeting in Austin in early June. So hopefully we'll have some good news shortly thereafter. We also have a pending National Science Foundation proposal, which would hopefully be subsidizing the program for a few years. So we want to keep this community going strong, and Dennis and Andy will still continue to be involved. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and we'll talk more again other times as well. So turn back to Brian.
And part of that increasing involvement is we did get here at the ASP, we did get a small grant from the AAS to produce Spanish language materials associated with the Eclipse that can be useful in outreach. And earlier this morning, you might have received an email from Ava here at the ASP, and you might have seen it on the Facebook group that on June 13th, we are having a 6 p.m. Pacific time webinar about how to use with a panel of people about how to work with Spanish language audiences. And AAS ambassadors who participate in that will also receive a set of materials, physical materials that we'll send to you for use in your events. And so make sure you check that out. We'll let you know. We'll remind everyone about those dates again as we get closer. Let's see, there was something else that I thought of, but I can't quite remember what it was, but that's okay. So today we have a relatively small group, but that's okay. We had 17 people sign up. Hopefully we'll have a few more. One of the ideas was that this was going to be an interactive session where all of you would be able to have your voices heard and be able to interact with Dennis and Andy a little bit more. And so we wanted to keep it to be a relatively small group to give everyone a chance to be able to chat with each other. And so if you do want to say something, if you accidentally forget to mute yourself, then I might be remuting you, which sometimes makes it more difficult to unmute yourself. And so if you have any difficulties with unmuting yourself, you can raise your hand or say something in the chat window and we'll get you unmuted. So I think that, yes, Dennis has got some, or wave your hands. Yeah, indeed. But if we have the presentation. Well, there's a raise the hand function in the participant window that you can find. So, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dennis and Andy. So take it away.
So I think I'm going to start, and then Dennis will follow from there. Again, as Brian said, our main idea today is for all of us to share what outreach projects we are doing for the eclipse, hopefully before the eclipse, as well as at the time of the eclipse, and for us to be able to chat and help each other and refer to things that may be available for your activities that you may not know about. But Dennis and I thought we would start with just reviewing a few things that are going on that you might be interested in, and a few resources that might be helpful to you. So let's see, now this is the technical part where I'm going to go and share my screen and find the PowerPoint and start the PowerPoint, which is slideshow from beginning. Have I done this right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we wanted to reinforce the idea that this is an amazing opportunity for astronomy outreach that we hope all the ambassadors will take advantage of. We'll remind you of the estimates that we have of the number of people in the 3 North American countries that will see at least a partial eclipse, and we're talking about almost 500 million people for whom this could be an astronomy education opportunity. Just thinking about that, of course, drives you wild because there's just no way that that many people are going to be ready. But if you can do something in your town, in your area, at your campus to get people ready, that's at least one more thing that gets done before the eclipse. And the essence of this is that the best way to observe the eclipse, if you don't have properly shielded binoculars or telescopes, the best way to observe it is with these inexpensive eclipse glasses. And these glasses are available still. The American Astronomical Society received a grant of about 100,000 glasses from a big group of glasses that's being made available by Google nationwide. And there's still about 4,000 glasses left after all the people who had asked for it have gotten theirs. And so today, Rick Feinberg, their education coordinator, has opened up the window to allow just the ambassadors, just the people in this phone call, to request an additional 200 free glasses. And here's the URL that he just gave me where the reopened window is. So you can request 200 free glasses, and if it's absolutely, you have a really good reason, you can request 2 packages of 200 for a total of 400 glasses from that URL. And Brian, maybe that's something we can also put up in the Facebook page for the group so that people can know that that's available. But as many of you have heard, I just want to remind everyone that Dennis and I are part of a much larger program that uses public libraries for the distribution of glasses. We were very fortunate in the sense that we got the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation and Google to fund 2 million free Eclipse glasses, and these will be distributed nationwide through public libraries. And that project is going and is actually going quite well. It's being coordinated through the Space Science Institute's special StarNet Libraries Network. And we now know that as of last week, more than 2,100 library systems have enrolled. That's all the dots on the map. And that represents, because many systems have more than one or many libraries, that represents roughly 5,000 public libraries, which the people at SSI estimate is roughly 1/3 of the public libraries in the United States. So we've really gotten some good coverage through libraries. And the problem or the opportunity here is that some librarians are deathly scared of this project. They're happy to get the glasses, but holding Eclipse outreach events in the library without an expert really scares them. And so we've been making tremendous efforts throughout the country to get astronomers, amateur astronomers, science teachers, museum educators to join with their local public library. So if you're wondering what you as an ambassador can do in the face of this incredible need for outreach, certainly one thing you can do is just simply go to your local public library, see if they're part of the program, encourage them to become part of the program if they're not, and then volunteer to help the librarian either with a training or by being with them at the time that they do the public library outreach sessions and distribute the glasses. Librarians will kiss your feet if you volunteer in your local library. So I want to mention that as an opportunity. If your library is not able to get in on the glasses, they are still able to download a free booklet which Dennis and I wrote for librarians. And it has all the background information about the Eclipse, safe viewing methods without glasses, and then a whole section on how to contact local Eclipse experts near them, people who could be resources for the library. And whether or not they have joined into the formal program, this can be downloaded on the web. Let me see if I can go back. Under starnetlibraries.org, if they go to this website and look for the project on the 2017 Eclipse, there they can get to this booklet, and that's just a free PDF file that any library, including non-public libraries, can download. So if you are working with any librarians, let them know about that. I'll skip that because that's no longer relevant. Another event that's coming up on June 20th, the United States Postal Service will issue the first ever thermochromic ink stamp. What the heck does that mean? If you touch the stamp, the picture changes. The heat in your finger makes the picture from the left become the picture on the right. And they're going to make a big deal of this because of the thermochromic nature of the release and how advanced it is. And so that, I think, will be a time when there'll suddenly be some publicity around the Eclipse. And so that might be an opportunity for you to get local media interested, an opportunity for you to get in touch with the local paper or the local weather person and talk about the stamp and make yourself available for Eclipse outreach. So that's going to happen June 20th. And Dennis told me that it's in Wyoming that the actual release ceremony will take place. All right, we've been working quite a bit with the National Science Teachers Association because there are no better resource people in a community that doesn't have astronomers than the local physics teacher or the local earth science teacher. And as some of you know, Dennis and I have written a book for the nonprofit NSTA Press called Solar Science, which has 45 hands-on activities that can be done about the sun, the moon, seasons, and particularly eclipses. So if you are working with teachers, we hope you might recommend this book to them. Coming with that book is a free booklet that NSTA has put on the web, which has all the background information on the eclipse. Teachers are sending this booklet home to the families of their students to give families the background about the eclipse in non-technical language. And this booklet is available free. If you go to that address, to the NSTA's website for our solar science book, there's a direct link from there to the free booklet, which anyone can download. So that's a resource that if you need to get in touch with lay people and tell them more about the eclipse and you don't want to reinvent the wheel, there is all the background information already. And then just recently they've published a children's book that Dennis and I put together. Again, it's a storybook, but it involves a number of hands-on activities that a family, grandparents and grandkids in this case, can do together to understand more about the eclipse, about phases of the moon, about different kinds of eclipses, etc. So this is another resource that the nonprofit National Science Teachers Association Press is making available. I've put together an updated bibliography about the eclipse. There's been more books and articles published, and I think this will be put on the AFCU site for the ambassadors. Brian, right, that's going to be something that you can post. And so I just want to mention a few of the resources that are highlighted there, including a nice book by the editor, one of the editors of Astronomy Magazine, called Your Guide to the 2017 Solar Eclipse. Very well written history of solar eclipses, including a lot of science well explained, called Sun, Moon, Earth by Tyler Nordgren, an astronomer at the University of the Redlands. And for those of you who want direct guides, Fred Espenak, who's Mr. Eclipse for NASA, has been very busy. There's a new book called Totality, which is there on the screen, Mark Littman and Fred Espenak. And it's not only to get people ready for 2017, but also for the next eclipse to cross the United States in 2024. And then Espenak has put together a detailed road atlas, which you can use to find the best spots to observe the eclipse all along the path. And it really is a very detailed book with maps and good suggestions that you can use. All right, so that's my little introductory part, and I'm going to now turn things over to Dennis. And Dennis, you have to unmute yourself, or I guess I have to, or am I going to do the slides, or are you?
Well, yeah, I have unmuted it, but if you could advance the slides, that would be great.
Great, so you say next slide.
Okay,
Good.
so we're going to the next slide, and I'm going to try and be brief so we can get input from everybody who's on the line, but Andy's done a few updates on books that are available. I'm going to talk about articles. One that you should be aware of is that I think it's the January issue of Dig Into History. It's a children's magazine. It's all about eclipses, and I've got a URL there that you can use to go to learn more about it. You can order a copy. Certainly it ought to be on the newsstands at this point, I think, actually also. So, and it deals a lot with history since it's Dig Into History, although it does have some aspects for the current 2017 eclipse. Next slide, talking about articles. Of course, I didn't want to list all the articles that have been generated everywhere, but certainly Sky and Telescope Astronomy have a number of them. As Andy pointed out, Bakich from the Astronomy magazine has written the book, but there's also been a number of articles through him. And I recommend going to the ASP's website where you can get the Eclipse Resource Guide updated from the time we last talked and what we did at the AAS Astronomy Ambassadors Workshop in Dallas. So next slide, going into things for teachers. There's a whole sequence. We talked about our work with NSTA. In March of this year, there were a number of articles, and these will be available as PDFs, and I'll tell you how you can get them. Science and Children is the journal of the NSTA for elementary, and it has an excellent article by Anna Hurst at the ASP and other authors about teaching about the eclipse to early learners. So that's one, if you're going to work with preschoolers through third grade, that's something you'd want to look at. You should also go look at the My Sky Tonight activities that are on the ASP website, which has a lot of activities that have been produced for preschoolers. The next slide, talking about middle school now, this is the Science Scope Journal. It has a very good article, which is also duplicated in the high school journal, about how to do three-dimensional learning as recommended by the NGSS, the Next Generation Science Standards. So if you're working with teachers and they're interested in NGSS and what should they do, this is going to be a great resource. And again, I'll get you a URL for all of these in a second. And then if you go to Science Teacher, this one has a nice article, which is also duplicated in Science Scope, about how to use students as solar eclipse outreach agents. How can teachers, instead of just talking about the eclipse, ask their students to help inform the rest of the school or even the community about what's happening for the eclipse? We know people learn best about those things that they teach to others. So this is a great way to actually get high school students or even middle school students to really understand the concepts, is to have them teach to other people and become these solar eclipse outreach agents. And finally, not finally. And so this is, these PDFs are, actually they're in various places. They're on the ASP website, but I happened to pick up the AAS website, Eclipse website. So if you go under their education materials, you can find all of these PDFs and other ones. An article that Brian wrote from last October, and several others that are in the journals of NSTA. So there's been 10 of them since last October. Actually, now I think there's 11 of them because the April issues have come out. So please think about that if you're working with teachers. Next slide. And I have to admit, if you're thinking about doing a summer camp or working with an extended professional development effort with teachers, of course, Chapter 4 of Solar Science, next has a number of activities, everything from understanding what causes the phases of the moon, which you need to know in order to understand eclipses, to modeling what the moon does to produce eclipses, to modeling eclipses, and then understanding why people travel 10,000 miles and spend $10,000 to see a solar eclipse. So a number of those activities actually also demonstrate three-dimensional learning. So the next slide, if you have the time, starting with looking at phases of the moon, this is from the first activity in the chapter. You then go out and make observations. So next slide, you ultimately find this, the students actually discover what is the order of the phases of the moon, how long it takes, and when do eclipses occur, both solar and lunar eclipses. In the next slide, then you model what's happening, so you actually understand what causes the phases of the moon, where the moon has to be for solar and lunar eclipses, and you can see that you use, you not only learn the concepts, but you use the science and engineering practices that are encouraged by the NGSS, and also these cross-cutting concepts. And I won't go into all of those. You can look at that in the book. Next slide. I think, and what does these do? It does say what causes an eclipse, but it leads to more questions and answers. Students and adults want to know if there's a full moon and new moon every month. Why are eclipses so rare? Why has it been 40 years? Why do people travel thousands of miles? And the next slide, there are a number of activities using hula hoops and other simple materials to understand why it is this is such a special activity that we're going to do. And next slide, a key aspect of this is that NSTA has now provided a number of the activities. Of course, all of the activities are in solar science, but a few number of them have been provided for free by NSTA, and this is the PDF of the document. The URL to get to these, or these PDFs are also located on the ASP website, on the AAS website, but this URL gives you the PDF of these activities that have been pulled out of solar science. So those are a few of the new resources that have occurred since we saw some of you in January. And of course, they'll keep changing, I'm sure. So with that, I'm going to stop, and we're going to spend some time now asking you, what are the things that you are doing? Are there questions you have for not only us, but for other people on the line, so that we can share our expertise about how to get ready for the next solar eclipse?
Or you can share your expertise, which is even more fun.
Well, that's what I meant. If I didn't say that's what I meant. So any comments, questions, people's plans? We'd love to hear what people are planning to do.
And you have to unmute yourself, right, Brian? Just let's review how people
so feel free to unmute yourself and to weigh into the conversation.
I'll start. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to pop my video up for a second. I have my daughter with me, so I'm trying to unmute and make sure she's not too too distracting. My name's Quinn Hart. I am at Regis University, which is in Denver. I was in the first cohort of the American of the Ambassadors Program, and I'm a one-person show at the university. We're a very small college, small institution. Anyway, I'm planning to stay in Denver, even though Totality is just north of us in Wyoming. So I'm planning to do something on campus for all of my colleagues and nearby schools down the street. I run a summer camp as well, so I'm probably going to do something related to that. But for me, the biggest challenge is trying to find enough people power to help me out. Because just for a regular partial eclipse a few years ago, I had about 500 people, but I had at least a dozen volunteers helping me. And this one I'll probably have less. And I'm hoping to get 1,000 people on campus. So those are my challenges right now.
And so what sort of things do you want to do? What did you do last time too? What are the...
Well, what I intend to do at a minimum is I'll have my 8-inch Meads out with white light solar filters on there. I have a personal, an H-alpha telescope I have a sun spotter, and then I'll have solar eclipse glasses. So that's usually what I've had in the past. And then I'm always going around. Students are helping me keep the telescopes up and pointed and focused. And I'm going around doing outreach, explaining to them what's going on. I wanted to get some hands-on activities also. So for example, I had a science outreach event earlier this year, and we did solar system bracelets with beads, and that's a great crafting activity. And I still have all of those from that activity. So I kind of wanted to talk about, just other astronomy related activities, not necessarily solar eclipse activities, but anything astronomy related that's easy enough to implement, given my restrictions on how many people will be there to help me.
So what you're saying is that there aren't enough students in the summer for you to get student volunteers.
If it was 1 week later, I could. This starts the Monday before classes start, and students don't come back to campus until Thursday later that week. So I'm limited, and there's a lot of students who live out of state. So, but yeah, that's my problem right now.
Do you think you could get a high school science class to be a helper?
Oh, that's a good idea. No, I hadn't thought about that.
If they're in session.
Yeah, if they're in session, they should be in session. I think the schools are in session starting just the week before. So I could imagine, yes, that's possible. But I don't know, swing it through the summer in terms of training them and I don't know. That's a good. I hadn't thought about that. That's a good suggestion.
That might be a good way. How many glasses do you have to?
So I requested one of the $1,000 glasses, and I got an email saying I got them, but I haven't gotten them yet. So we'll see.
That's right. No, you'll get them. They're being mailed out. But how about the local amateur club? Will everybody in the club be at the Eclipse at the total class? Well,
this is what I'm assuming that most will, just because the path to totality is within driving distance of Denver. I think it's about an hour and a half from here. So if I didn't have other restrictions, I would be driving myself to totality, but I'm not. And so because of that, I'm staying on campus and making sure whoever still is in the area, because it's a Monday, it's a working day. There's a lot of people on campus who are going to be working. Schools can come up to campus and look at it. So I'm providing that opportunity instead of driving. So in terms of the amateur clubs, I'm assuming that most of them, if they can't go to totality, they're working and can't help out. So but I haven't reached out.
You might reach out. There might be retired people. There might be people who are just not able for one reason or another to go to the eclipse, but could take a couple of hours off from work. So you might, if I remember correctly, the Denver Astronomical Society is a very active.
Yes, yeah, they are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
that's a good idea. Thank you.
There is one activity in science, solar science, that might be a good, sort of like your bracelet. There's a pocket sun clock. Everybody makes don't have one with me, but it's just it's a very simple folded piece of cardboard with a gnomon string.
Okay.
And it's something that people can actually make, and then they can align it and watch the time go by. So that's something that might work well for you.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
And the other thing is, if you I don't know exactly how these things work, but if you could imagine that if there are Girl Scouts or Boy Scout troops, which for some of them are being trained on Eclipse material, the ASP is part of a big project to help train Girl Scouts on Eclipse outreach. So if there are local Scout troops or 4-H clubs, where the kids are not yet in school, but they have been trained to some degree and are interested in doing something public as part of their badge or whatever they're getting, maybe you can link up with them.
Yeah. I'm almost positive that school starts the week before. So, that's school starts too early or too late in the Denver area right now. But
it would be interesting if you get a science teacher who might, actually collaborate and want to have you come in and do the training that you need to do, and then be over there.
No. I think the high school suggestion is probably the high school, and reaching out to the amateur astronomy clubs probably will be my the best leads to find people to come on campus to help out.
So your target audience is the people on your campus, the campus community.
Well, it's the campus community and the surrounding community. So I've already have a fairly good network of doing outreach to the surrounding community. For example, I ran an event called Science Sunday, which is basically an open house on campus. And I've done it twice now each year. And this past year, I got 600 people on campus just for that. So I'm going to reach out to the same network, same social media outlets. And I know that for myself, my other daughter, I'm taking her out of school. She's going to be with me. So like you can miss school that day. So I'm sure there are definitely some parents who are in the same mindset of this is a really kind of unique event and might want to come to campus and not have their kids go to school.
Sure.
Yeah,
you mentioned a summer camp as well that you're working on. What age and how long are you going to have those?
It's middle school, and I've been running that for 5 years. And so what we do every year, every year I give them a Galileo scope and we teach them how to use it. They have a solar filter for the Galileo scope, and we give them solar eclipse glasses and teach them how to point everything and point to the sun. So I'll probably make sure that they know how to do it so they can bring it to their school. But and potentially even invite them to come back on the day of the eclipse, but again, school. So, but if anything, they could bring it to their school and they'll have at least one solar filter and one set of solar eclipse glasses. Maybe I can give them a set for a classroom, and they can work with their teacher somehow, and get in contact with me. So I'll work with those girls.
I just want to be sure, in the interest of time, that if there are other participants who want to share, that we give them time. So.
Yep.
We might come back to you, but let's ask if anybody else wants to tell us what their plans are or to talk about ways that we can brainstorm to help them. Regina is raising her hand.
Okay, I think I unmuted. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Regina Jorgensen. I'm the Director of Astronomy at Mariah Mitchell Observatory in Nantucket, Massachusetts. So we unfortunately won't be in the path of totality, but given that summer is our high season here on Nantucket, and we expect, we have a lot of summer visitors. So we are gearing up for this event, and we're actually going to have an eclipse week starting the week beforehand.
Wow.
For advertising, I'll be giving a talk on sort of history of eclipses, and then also on, this eclipse, how to view them safely, things like that. I also want to do, and here I haven't quite decided yet, I want to do at least one, but maybe an additional 1 or 2 hands-on activities at some point during our eclipse week. And so, the first, and I would like to do something where people can build something that they can take with them. So, the obvious thing is do a pinhole camera sort of in a shoebox or something like that. So that's one thing we might do. And I was wondering, my question for the group is if anybody has any additional ideas for sort of fun, simple eclipse hands-on activities that I haven't unfortunately had the time to look through. I know there's a lot of information and resources. I've looked through some of it, but I haven't looked through all of it. So I don't know. I just thought I'd ask if anybody has any good ideas on that.
Well, I will put forward that same, the pocket sun clocks, although they're not eclipse related, are a very nice, easy, quick make, and it can occupy a fair amount of time when you're waiting for the hour and a half to get from first touch to maximum coverage, and they can take it with them. It's a pocket sun clock. They put it in their pocket and go home. So I think that's a really good one to do with students, with the public.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to think of eclipse related ones that don't involve some equipment. I mean, in addition to the pinhole camera, I mean, just getting them to take a compact mirror and get it ready with a little hole so they can reflect an image of the sun. That's often a nice way to show the sun to more than one person and have a slightly larger image. But again, they'd either have to bring some kind of mirror, or you'd have to provide some mirrors for them. But other thoughts?
I think your idea of a compact mirror is interesting with women who do have a compact in their purse. You could actually use that mirror to do the projection, make a pinhole reflector. I mean, I think I can't remember the name of the person that was talking before, but doing something around the size, what's in the solar system, size of the solar system, those kinds of activities with adding machine tape, solar system spacing, that sort of thing is certainly a worthwhile thing to do, even though it's not specifically eclipse related.
One thing you could potentially do too is that if you have people that are going to be kind of coming and going from there, have some toilet plungers put out as gnomons and have them predict where the shadow would be if they come back in an hour or something like that, and see how surprised they are where it really is compared to where they think it's going to be.
And that's the other thing that in terms of having a large crowd, this is a little bit off the question you asked, but one of the things that we're starting to think about is if you give people glasses and then they just go away, if they just grab glasses, are you going to have some kind of information sheet about the eclipse with local circumstances and safety warnings and things like that? If you make just something which is an inexpensive one-pager, maybe you could give that out and even have something about how to donate to the observatory at the bottom. And that way people who don't have a lot of time to spend with you but come by may be able to have a better experience with the eclipse when it actually happens, whether they're at work or at school.
Yeah, we also got I actually just received my glasses. We got the 1,000 free glasses, which is great. And so we were thinking we would have them available the week during Eclipse week, the week beforehand, for people to come by to pick them up and if they wanted to. But I think that's a great idea to have an information sheet that goes with it so that if they don't come back to the observatory on the day of the event, they'll at least,
Great. And Dennis and I have one that we put together, so maybe we can post that, Brian, and that way people can adapt that to be.
Oh yeah.
Or rewrite it if they have better jokes.
And Daniel chimed in here in the chat window, and I don't know if you want to unmute yourself and say it out loud. We'd love to hear from you.
Sure.
There you go.
All right, great. So Andy, you had mentioned some kind of mirror involving a mirror and a pinhole camera. What exactly does that look like? I'm not clear on what you had in mind there, but I like the idea of multiple people being to see the image at the same time.
Right. So Dennis, I don't know if you want to do the mirror part, but there are several ways that you can project an image of the sun. I mean, everything from the sun tracker telescopes that you can get. And one way is to take a mirror and make a relatively small hole in a piece of cardboard about the size maybe of a dime or smaller, and then use that mirror to reflect an image of the eclipsed sun onto a wall. This is probably best done outdoors if you have a group of people. But Dennis, do you want to say any more about that?
Let me actually, if you give me a second while we're talking, I can probably bring up an image of exactly what we're talking about. This is where an image is worth 1,000 words, of course.
So Daniel, where are you located?
I'm currently in Florida at the moment, but I'm affiliated with Georgia State University in Atlanta. Although I'm currently in the process of looking for applying for jobs, so I'm not entirely sure where I will be for the eclipse.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm working on this, but to keep talking, and before we finish, I should have it up. I just have to find the right PowerPoint.
So I've tried, just to tell you, Daniel, this sounds really good, but it's well worth practicing, because it takes me a long time to make sure that I angle the mirror correctly. So preparing the mirror is not that big a deal. You get a hand mirror or a compact mirror and you have a small hole, but you have to really practice with how to get the angle right, and also how far away you are from the wall to have a pretty good image that other people can see. The advantage is that you get a bigger image than you get with just a pinhole viewer in the shoebox.
How big is this image that we're talking about?
Well, it depends how far away you are from the wall. And the further away you are, of course, the fainter the image. So you have to, this is why you should do it ahead of time, because you want to practice with, it'd be nice to find a place where you're in the sun, but the wall is in the shade. Okay, so I now have this image of it. And the other thing is it looks like I'm hand holding it, but you can't hand hold it. It's, like anything else, like hand holding a telescope.
Can you share your screen?
I think so, if I can figure out now how to do that. I go up to the top.
Well, actually, it's in the bottom, big green button in the middle on the bottom.
Thank you. I've got it. Let's see if this works. Am I sharing it?
Yep.
Yes.
Here we go.
So this is just, a kind of mirror that someone might have in their bathroom to look at the back of their head or something like that. And you can see I've crudely covered it with a piece of cardboard and crudely put a hole in the middle. It does have to be put on a tripod or something where it's held steady, but it's a pretty straight process. Oops, sorry. And the size of the hole, you can play around with the size of the hole, the distance to the wall. So it's well worth trying it ahead of time, but well tested.
Does that size hole produce a good image? Because I would think it looks bigger than I imagined it was a pinhole.
No, well, because it actually gives a pretty good image. Again, if you think about pinhole projections, they're fuzzy on the edge anyway. So, but this is that trade-off between the bigger the hole, the brighter the light, the brighter the image versus a smaller one. So that's only, I might be 7 millimeters or something.
Okay.
So it's still pretty small if you start thinking about some of these pinhole projector cards where, those are 4 millimeters or something like that. So yeah, I think this works quite well.
Okay.
And if you make it big and it doesn't, you can try taping it a little bit, see if that's better, or you can play around with the size of the hole and the distance to the wall.
Okay. Other people who have questions or want to tell us about what they're planning or hoping to plan?
Dennis, I think you're not sure, but there you go. Excellent. So Peter or Christina, not to put you on the spot, but do you have anything you'd like to share?
I can share. Hi, I'm Christina. I'm at UPenn. I'm a graduate. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'm a graduate student there, and we have a outreach group that's about 10 to 15 graduate students, and we are trying to decide what we're going to do for the eclipse. We have a green space right outside of Penn, but there are 2 major institutions near us that are doing eclipse events. There's the Franklin Institute in downtown Philly, and there's also the Mann Center, which is a huge outdoor space with kind of arena type seating. And so we're deciding whether we should just take our 1 or 2 telescopes that we have and a sun spotter and go to those events and just give our information to them, or if we should actually plan something at Penn. And we've also had an offer from the Penn Museum, which is a small archaeology museum. They have a rooftop space, which is maybe not the best venue for something like this, where it might be a limited amount of people that can fit up there. So yeah, kind of haven't settled on what we're going to do, but this has been a good conversation because we volunteer every summer at the Franklin Institute with the summer camp there. And there's a week where they're in summer camp and the eclipse is happening, and we want to be able to talk about the eclipse, and the solar system bracelets and pinhole cameras I think will be great for that. So if anyone has any input on running an event for a lot of people, that would be helpful, because it might get too expensive for our budget.
So Doug Duncan has written a whole article for Mercury Magazine about running big eclipse events, but you might just get overwhelmed by that article. He's thinking about renting out a stadium and things like that. I mean, my sense, if I were to answer your question, my sense would be that it's worth doing something at the university, because so many people are not going to be able to get to or into the Franklin Institute or even that big center that you're talking about. And some people will only have a few minutes to come out and do something, particularly others at the university. So if you are able to get the word out, the big question will be, who's your audience and how do you get the word out? So is, for example, the Public Information Office, or is there an internal newsletter for the university who can help you to get, at least to the university community, the word out that you're going to be in this field at this time with glasses and people should join you. And then you can at least be the heroes of the university.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, there are people that can help me with that, and I should probably, that's the first place I should go to see if they're willing to put up that effort.
So at our Eclipse meeting that we had in St. Louis in December, Derek Pitts from the Franklin Institute, who's done a lot of outreach in the Philadelphia area, he might be a good resource, and he might be able to have some hints if you wanted to do something in partnership with them. And so I don't know if you've met him, but
yeah, for sure. He's come to some of our meetings before, and
okay,
we've talked to him briefly about it. But he did mention that they're planning on doing quite a bit of activities.
Yeah. So he would be an excellent partner. So,
and Derek is
I was at
joining the board of the ASP.
I was at a recent meeting where there was someone, I wish I could remember exactly where the meeting was and so on, that there was some big music event that was going to happen and they were trying to tie it into the Eclipse in Philadelphia. Does this ring a bell at all?
That might be what the Mann Center is doing, because they are a music venue.
Okay, that must be it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you couple with what they're doing. But
I know, yeah, there's kind of a lot of options. And so I just wanted to gather as much information as possible so that we can have a meeting about this in the group and decide who can do what and what we can do. So, thanks.
And will you have, how many people will you have joining you in this if you were to do it at Penn?
Yeah, so we're a graduate group. So typically most of us will still be here through the summer. And we've done, I don't think we've ever done an event on our own that big. So that's a question.
So who else could you get to be with you is what I'm trying to get to think about. Or could there be friends? Could there be undergraduate students? Could there be members of the department who would join you, so that if you do get a good crowd, you can have enough people to give out take back glasses, show people things through the telescopes, or whatever it is that you're going to do, have handouts. The more people you have joining you, the better you'll be able to serve whatever group of people then comes out.
Yeah, I think that won't be an issue. Maybe most faculty are still around, and our department is pretty good about faculty volunteering at these sorts of things. Undergrads, maybe. They tend to sometimes be a little flaky on commitments like that, because they're doing a lot more homework in classes than we are. So
I do think there's a big, I don't want to say a big issue, but there's a question of people think they're going to come out and this is all going to happen very quickly. And it takes 3 hours, from first touch to last touch. And so it's thinking about what are other activities or things to do, or maybe it isn't even that. It's, take a look now, come back in a half an hour. But the process of keeping people engaged and what to do with them when they're not going to stand out there for 3 hours. So what do you do about that? So that's something that's been a big conversation with the school districts I've worked with, because they want to take their students out. They somehow think they're going to have their students out there for the whole thing. And yet that's really not a viable option, because everybody will get bored pretty quickly, especially if they don't have totality. I was just working with a school last week. Well, they get to have 2 minutes of totality, but they still have this issue. What do you do with the time before and after? And so they've been trying to think about how often do they go out. They're thinking now of having a lunch. So they typically have kind of lunch periods are in the middle of the time that they'll be seeing the partial eclipse. So maybe have a picnic lunch, have the lunch actually served out in the field. So and that doesn't mean that's what you should do, but it's thinking about what do you do with the fact that this is really a 3-hour event, and how do you keep people interested or be ready to take back their glasses if you're the one sharing the glasses, and tell them to come back and see it a half an hour later.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. And I think I'm getting some good ideas here. Yeah, thanks.
So, Peter, did you have anything you wanted to contribute? Because we want to make sure everybody gets a chance.
Yes, so for those of you who don't know, I'm at the University of New Mexico, and can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Right. And luckily for me, we've got a pretty good department, and there are definitely going to be people trying to put on events. I'm also a member of the Albuquerque Astronomical Society, and I know that they do outreach events. They have a bunch of telescopes set up. I believe last time there was a solar eclipse, it was just a partial one, but they set up at multiple locations across the city. But I haven't really heard anybody talking about things to do before the eclipse itself to get people ready for it. And also, it is slightly problematic that the eclipse is actually happening on the very first day of classes, so it's going to be a little busy at the university, at least.
True for many schools too.
Yes.
It'll be the first week of classes. Yeah.
Yeah, one of our goals with the library project is, because everybody says, oh, it's what we're going to do on the day of. And it's, especially for libraries, we would want people to do things so that people are ready to do it at home, because many people will be at work and they just need to be able to walk outside, or they're at home, they need to be able to walk outside. So a lot of it is to have libraries offer programming the weeks before, whether that includes glasses, which some of them will have glasses, or how to make a pinhole projector, that sort of thing. I mean, one of my favorite ways to actually project the image of the sun is to use a colander, which most people have. They have some sort of colander in their kitchen. And there you have multiple pinhole projectors. And if you just take that out, you get a wonderful view of many images of the sun. So to show some cheap, and you can't look directly at the sun. They're not going to be in totality. So what are some cheap and easy ways in which to actually see the sun? So doing some of that ahead of time, whether it's at libraries. I mean, the problem is setting up the venues. What's nice about library, people are coming there all the time anyway, because they're going to get books or tapes or whatever they're doing, use the computers. So I totally agree with you. We need to be thinking about what's going to happen ahead of time, not just what's happening on the day of. And I will also go and try and show this colander image for you, because it is pretty dramatic.
So let me also mention what I'm doing at my college, because one of the things that I think is a worry is that people will wake up to this whole event a couple of days before. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm getting the campus bookstore to carry glasses, to buy the glasses in bulk and then to sell them. They make a profit, and suddenly they're heroes, because right there on campus, glasses will be available. And they know how to sell things, so you don't have to get involved with this. Your glasses will soon run out, however many you ordered. The other thing that again might be useful is if you put together a little FAQ, frequently asked questions, or guide about the eclipse and what's happening, and get your campus internal email or news service or the president's office to circulate that. You could do that in conjunction with the department faculty, presumably. But it surprises me that often that people are prepared to do all kinds of outreach everywhere except their own campus, and yet there they'll be August 21 on their own campus. So to have information ready also, if you're going to have an event, where you're going to be, but even if you don't have one event on campus, to get information out to people might be really good. I've got this one pager that Dennis and I put together that I'm just duplicating and putting in all the campus mailboxes. Now, I teach at a small college where I can put it in every faculty member's mailbox. That may not be possible at a big university, but you might make them available to department secretaries and see if they want to then duplicate them in their own department.
Yeah, unfortunately, my university is rather large, but I think I'll definitely look into sending something out through the campus email. I think that would definitely be pretty useful.
And then same things we've said to other people. If there's a local amateur club that's doing things, you can tell people about that, or you can invite some people to come to your campus. And then depending on what the schedule of the schools is, if there's a science teacher who has a particular interest in astronomy, an earth science teacher that somebody on campus has been working with, maybe talk to the School of Education on campus and see if they have science teachers who are right now preparing, or science teachers they work with in the area who might be interested in doing something if their school is not in session. And again, some of this can be done in the weeks before the eclipse to get people ready. And then wherever people are, at least they'll have that knowledge and maybe a pair of glasses to share in their own location.
Okay.
Well,
Well, we're about 2 minutes away from the top of the hour, and we want to protect everyone's time. And so do we have any last comments, Dennis and Andy, before we...
If I can share my screen, I'll show that image of the colander.
Go ahead.
Here's just holding it out, having the sun shine through it, and you can see all of the crescent moons. This is on a wall that's beyond the colander, obviously. So it's these kinds of things that people can do with the equipment they have at home. They don't have to go buy glasses. They don't have to have a telescope or a pair of binoculars or whatever to project an image. They just need to have something with holes in it.
Yeah. Even through leaves of trees, I've seen it when we did a partial eclipse in '91. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Or just doing this.
Yeah.
So,
well, the one other thing we haven't talked about is using the media. And I suspect that the media will wake up to the eclipse around the end of July and throughout August. So if your department, if you're at a university or at an observatory, if you make a little sheet of who's available when to talk to the media, that might be a really useful thing, and share that with your public information office, because when the media needs someone, they usually need them in 30 seconds rather than planning 2 months in advance like rational people. And so it may be very helpful to have sort of an emergency list of contacts available from each department or institution when the questions start coming in.
okay. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for participating in this. And remember, we've got another webinar coming up on Tuesday, June 13th at 6 p.m. Pacific time. That's 9 p.m. Eastern time. Love to have everyone join us. AAS ambassadors will, as I mentioned, will get a kit of materials to include some Spanish language materials. There will also be some eclipse cards that have a pinhole pre-drilled into the middle, and there will be at least, I think, one yardstick eclipse model that you can use to help your visitors manipulate it and actually make some eclipses right on the spot. So without further ado, I want to say thank you very much, everyone. This is great that we had everyone had a chance to give everyone a chance to tell us a little bit more about what you're doing. I think it's very, very exciting. So we're looking forward to working with you in the future. We're hoping to be a little more active here with working with everyone. So thank you very much. So.
Well, thank you to everyone, and thank you, Brian and Greg at the ASP. We appreciate all your support.
Yeah, well, take care, everyone.
Skies.
Yeah. Okay, take care. We'll see you on the 13th, hopefully.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.